Alrighty. What are we doing? 2021 e-bike shootout. Niner. Welcome back, e-bike fans. We are making our way through the list for the 2021 e-bike shootout. Today, we're taking a look at the Niner WFO E9. We tested the 3-star SX Eagle package, which retails for $6,295, and the bike weighs in at 57.6 pounds. This is a 180 bike, front and rear travel. One thing to note, we got our bike before the RockShox Zeb fork was available and in stock, so you'll notice that what we're saying is the proper spec is not exactly what's on our bike, and that was due to us getting an early bike and availability. So, a RockShox Zeb R fork with a Fox Van coil rear shock make up the suspension spec. As with all of the Niner e-bikes, Bosch's Performance CX Gen 4 drive unit handles the pedaling power. We are big fans of the Bosch unit. It is awesome. There is a PowerTube 625 watt-hour battery and 2 solid points for Bosch right there. Great range, great power. Big fans once again. SRAM Guide RE brakes, SX Eagle 12-speed drivetrain. And unlike the Niner Rip 9, the WFO is a mullet, which helps make this big, gnarly bike a little bit more agile and playful on some of the tighter, more technical downhills. And I think, in our opinion, also adds to a little bit of increased stiffness out of that rear end. This bike has a KS Lev 150 dropper post and a pretty capable geometry setup. It gives you a 470 mil reach. It is 465 in the low setting. The stack height is 631 mils, 1,270 millimeter wheelbase, 450 millimeter chain stays. The seat tube angle on the WFO sits at 76.5 degrees, where the head tube angle is at 64 in the high and 63.5 in the low.
Bottom bracket. I like that it's a tank. I also dislike that it's a tank. It hits both ends of the spectrum really well, but at the end of the day, it is a very heavy, kind of sluggish feel. Climbs amazing.
That Bosch motor does make up for the 57-pound weight, and 180 mils is a
lot of mils.
Yeah,
it's a big bike.
It's a heavy, big bike, and it rides that way.
Yep.
Where does the Niner stack up? You're gonna have to check back in our grand finale roundtable, but how it rides on the trail is pretty awesome. Some downsides: it is a big, heavy 180 millimeter bike. So that, I think, is gonna take it off the table for quite a few people, but I also think that the traits will also make it really desirable for some people as well. Having to lift that thing up onto a bike rack at nearly over 57.5 pounds, that's going to be a problem, I think. And granted, we're talking about 3, 4, 5 pound difference from other bikes, but I mean, it just gets exponentially harder to get a bike up overhead or pick it up. The top tube is pretty unfortunate and ugly. We talked about that with the Rip 9. Both bikes got damaged on the top tube when we either crashed or if the bars spun around and scratched that. I think that was not a great design feature to have. Our fork was a little bit flexy and undergunned for such a big burly bike. That is addressed obviously with the new bike and the Zeb fork, so we're really happy to say that's not going to be a concern anymore. 150 mil dropper on a 180 mil bike, that's too short in our opinion. We definitely would like to see a longer dropper post because this bike is very capable on very steep, gnarly, and rough descent. SRAM Guide RE brakes. I know it's something that we harp on a lot in our reviews, but guides on a nearly 60-pound, 180 mil bike, that was not the right spec. That's something that for sure, if you live in an area with lots of downhills, you're gonna need to address, I think, especially if you weigh over, like if you ride hard or you weigh more than 175 pounds, you're gonna definitely be roaching these things out. The positives of the bike. One that could go either way is the long wheelbase. While it is not ideal for tight technical terrain and switchbacks or flat corners between obstacles, it made the bike climb very, very well. This is one of the better climbing bikes in the shootout. Part of that's Bosch, part of that's the chainstay and wheelbase length. Probably part of it is also the heavy weight. It just gives traction, keeps the front tire down. So there are some trade-offs there. Comfort, whether it was seated or standing, was incredible on this bike. So for that reason, I think that, and I don't want to like disqualify this bike for other people, but I think that some of the riders that would really benefit from this bike would be maybe like an older crowd that like to spend a lot of time in the saddle, right? Maybe they're not the guys that their post is always down and they're standing up out of the saddle pedaling. If you are someone with a bad back, neck injuries, that someone that just wants to sit down, have a comfortable off-road capable e-bike, and you've got a long range and you can explore, get back out into trails that you used to ride, this is gonna be a really, really good option for you because that rear end, that coil sprung shock is so comfy. And you know, with a little bit of a better seat, you know, maybe like a nice e-bike specific seat with a little scoop on the back, you're gonna just be able to park it like it's like the beach cruiser of the e-bikes. You just sit down and it just floats over stuff. It just erases everything. Downhill, it also really smooths out the trail. It's a very soft, plush feeling bike. I wouldn't go so far to say it's totally linear. I mean, there's a little bit of progression at the end. So if you are hitting drops, bigger jumps, you know, landing big compressions, you're not absolutely blowing through the travel. You might want to look at your preload or spring rate a little bit, but what it does well is plow stuff. Like that is absolutely where this bike excels, and that Zeb fork's gonna do it even better than what we had on there. That's basically the Niner WFO. Insanely comfortable. Very good at climbing. If you want to go out and explore, spend big days out in the backcountry, you've got a great range, you got great climbing capabilities with that Bosch system. It's going to be comfort. It won't beat you up on the climb or on the downs. If you like to bob and weave and jump, hop, whatever, this is not going to be the bike for you. It's definitely a planted, pounding downhill machine. So no issues. It held up to a lot of abuse. Like I don't know, I don't want to say we picked on this bike, but we really tried hard to beat this thing down, and it just kept coming back for more. So props to Niner for making a bulletproof bike that really held up to some huck to flat challenges and a lot of other abuse during the week. If you guys don't already, please subscribe to the channel. Check back soon and we'll see you out on the trails.